You actually kind of like when was younger taught me to play the guitar a little bit, and we spent some time together hanging out. And you told me about how you got your first guitar.
Oh yeah, for my dad.
Yeah, and what you had
Yeah,
to
he
do
told
to
me I
get.
had to learn to play the song Jalisco. And so I worked and worked and learned it.
And how old were you?
13 or something. 13. Well, and see, I had a little guitar that was really like Vegematic action. It was awful, you know. But I was learning to play it fairly well, and I wanted an electric guitar really badly. And excuse me. So anyway, he said, okay, learn the song Jalisco, and I learned it. And he was going, well, learn Under the Double Eagle too. And my mom was going, you better get him that guitar. You said if he learned the song. I think I made a tape of it, so I had proof. It's on the tape. I could play the song. You know, I mean, it was an outlet. You know, I mean, at some point, I think musicians are cool, but it's kind of like they're all nerds. You know, at some point, you have to just sit and decide. I'm not going to go hang out with my friends at the skateboard ramp. I'm going to sit in my room and learn to play a ZZ Top lick. And so that's what I did, you know, and my friends would come by and say, hey, is Jim home? And I'd go, no, I don't want to go to the mall. I'm just going to stay here. And my parents were going, there's something wrong with him, you know, but, you know, it was just that I wanted to play music, you know, and I was getting a grasp of it. And I had this deal where I could learn stuff off records, and I'd sit there with the needle over and over on the most difficult licks. And wow, I can't get that. Let me hear it again. You know, 100 times. And after noodling around enough, I'd get it, you know. And I got better, progressively better at doing that. So, you know, I got in bands and everything. But anyway.
I would like to think that he's kind of like fire, and he's kind of like water, and I'm kind of like lukewarm
the froth.
water.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, the reason I'm the band leader is because nobody would be in my band. And so I was a solo act, and I, you know, kept going and going, and I started making enough money where I could hire guys, and I had some pretty good players with me before Jimbo, and we were down in Houston doing a gig, and I had this argument with my current bass player about this triple slap thing, or like this little rumba double slap, triple slap, and this bass player was going, that's stupid, you don't know what you're talking about, that's impossible. And you know, the whole way we were having this argument, it's not impossible, it's that rock, but it's when they do the rumba rock and roll thing, they do this double, triple slap thing, he's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, you know? And he was a good bass player, but he's more of a jazzer and a little bit, you know, he was a good guy. But, you know, we got down to Houston to do this gig, and we did the gig, and we're tearing down our equipment at the end of the gig. And the drummer at the time had heard me and this guy arguing the whole day. And at the end of the gig, Jimbo was there, and he goes up and meets our bass player and says, hey, let me try your bass. And he gets up on the bass and starts going, bump, dun, 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 dun. And right then I looked at the drummer that we had at the time, and I said, it's not impossible.
Somebody told me.
And then I walked over and said, hey, can I get your phone number?
And best day of my life.
And so then that bass player quit, and I called up Jimbo. And the next day he went in and quit his job. The day after that, me and my mom had to drive me down. I got my mom, bless her heart, because I had sprained my ankle. I couldn't drive. My ankle was so screwed up. So she drove me down to Houston. And we got down to Houston, and she goes, I'll never forget, I saw Jimbo the first time. He was riding that bicycle. I knew he was a good guy. You know, it was like, you know, it's because he doesn't have a driver's license.
Yeah, and I quit my girlfriend, too. I quit my job and my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah, the next day, and so like within a week, he was moved to Dallas, and we were playing gigs, so.
We used to live close to a mall, and there was a little H&H music store, and we'd walk past there. I think my dad really wanted to play guitar more than I did, you know, because we'd walk past this music store, and my dad would be looking at this guitar, you know, but he was a machinist, and his hands were big and, you know, worn out from, you know, working with metal, and so I'd look at it with him, and so he finally said, you know, son, do you want to learn how to play guitar? Yeah, I'll learn how to play guitar. And so I'd take little guitar lessons, and I'd have to come home and show him everything I learned that day. So poor guy, his fingers were just, so big he couldn't make the chords, and I'd try to show him what I learned that day, and eventually I'd just started enjoying playing it, and I'd never really thought about playing upright bass until the Stray Cats really came out, and it was the coolest thing, and so I was playing in a little rockabilly band. I was playing guitar, and the singer said, "We got to have an upright bass. The Stray Cats have an upright bass. All my idols have it." So I said, "Well, if we had one, I'd learn how to play it." So he ended up breaking into a high school and stealing an upright bass, running across the field with the bass. And
From the high school band?
yeah, so I immediately spray painted it black, scratched out the serial numbers, and if I ever find out what high school this was, I'm going to have to replace it. But I just kind of taught myself how to do it, and then I met this guy.
Yeah, I saw like Buddy Rich on the Muppets do the drum battle with Animal, and that was one thing.
You kind of remind me of Animal a little bit, actually.
Oh, gee, thanks.
That's good, right?
I
that
guess,
He
yeah.
was one of your inspirations. So you wanna
That
play
and just listen. My grandma had a Henry Mancini record. I'd listen to that a lot, and there's a lot of elevator music, a lot of Linda McCartney, Cher. No, I'm just
Share.
kidding. All the great female singers, great female artists, Linda McCartney, Cher. No, it's just all I can play is drums, So that was, and it's like he said, you slow the record down, and figure out what they're doing, and just try to play with the band instead of you either learn how to play with the band or you get really good on the drums, and you get too good and you can't play with the band. So I'm lucky. It was Animal,
Yeah.
the Muppets.
Animal was always my favorite.
Buddy Rich, he threw the drum on Buddy Rich's head.
Yeah.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, because Buddy Rich beat him. Animal got pissed off over his head.
If you're a musician, you play music. You don't sit around waiting for some golden record deal. And unfortunately, that's the way musicians are looking at it. They look at it like, oh, well, if we don't get a record deal within the next year, I'm going to quit the band and go back to college. And then, you got people like Axl Rose who spend 6 years making one album. And I mean, that's not being a musician. And from my point of view, being a recording artist is far less valid than just being a musician. But, I mean, that's why we live in a really topsy-turvy world where people who can't sing are making millions of dollars selling records, but the guy that studied and has a PhD in music is playing piano at the Hyatt Regency. So, the people like the John Coltrane jazz type players who are geniuses, they're playing on the street for nothing, and in the meantime, some cute little girl who could bounce around and knows the right dance moves is making $1 million, or the rap guy who can't sing a note, he just copies NWA and he makes millions of dollars. So, we're not about that. You play music. Music is not about recording. It's not like you write a book and it's done. You can edit it or whatever, but then it's done. Or you paint a picture and you're done, it's on the wall. But if you write a song isn't meant to be done once and then that's the definitive version, that's it. You play music every night. You hit 3 notes and those notes are gone forever. You do it again the next night, and so, that's why we tour a lot is, we play music. That's what we do. We're musicians.
Change needs to happen. There needs to be more live music out there and less DJs. And
Yeah, that's funny. We see these signs. Tonight, live music with DJ so-and-so.
I don't get it. I mean, and you get this one. Well, have you seen him play before? Play what? The record player? Oh, he's better DJ than him. Why? Because he drops the needle on the record better? I'm like, there's just something said to be for a person up there sweating and playing, guitar or whatever. And then there's, oh, no, I don't want to see that. I want to dance to some robotic rhythm that has no pulse. It's metronomic and it has no feel. And I want to have a green glow stick and go,
Just don't think and don't feel.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mainly
If you want to,
don't
if you
feel.
don't want to have, any soul or anything, that's great. Apparently, that's the way a lot of people are nowadays. But I'd rather see some guy playing guitar for the 5 people. even if it's a cover band, I'd rather see a cover band than a DJ.
Well, rock and roll, never really had a chance. It never had a chance. And people act like, oh, well, rock and roll, they've been doing that forever. But, it really died in the 50s. Rock and roll is Jerry Lee Lewis pounding straight eights on a piano. Straight eights, it's that. And then a lot of rock and roll songs did have a swing beat. But, then in the 60s, all of a sudden, Mama and the Papas are singing these folk song harmonies, and they're rock and roll. It's not rock and roll, And then, you had these art rock bands in the 70s, and rock and roll. It's not rock and roll, And so much stuff gets called rock and roll, and it's not, And it's kind of sad. And we were sitting at that bar the other night, and what was the guy from Counting Crows? And it was a funk beat. And we were going,
Oh, yeah.
and they called this rock and roll. And there's this middle-aged guy sitting next to us goes, you guys are really hard, aren't you? You got to be a good player, but, guys that get to be good players, they all of a sudden get a really big attitude about, well, I'm not going to do that. I deserve more. Well, okay, maybe you do deserve more, but guess what? It's a tough world and nobody gives a shit, So, you have to have the right attitude. And I think that's really the big key to us is because we did this crazy shit where we'd get in the van and drive to all these crazy places and eventually, it got better and eventually got a little better and then a little better after that, and that leads us to where we are now, so. And I don't want to get too much on our high horse because, God damn it, there's a lot of guys better than me and, there's a lot of people worse than me, but, so, I mean, it's not like we're really geniuses or anything like that, but, I think the public has been bamboozled. And what the cool thing is at some point, the reason we're here and the reason that our career has never gone down, we've always steadily gotten bigger and bigger, is because people do appreciate it. They get to a point where they do appreciate it. So you can't say too much bad about that, But at the same time, we go through record labels like underwear, so, because they don't know what to do,
One a year.
Right, so.
Money. You wear the same pair of underwear for a year.
Yeah.
Then we
Yeah,
throw it
once
out.
a year, that's right, yeah.
Change it once.
Yeah, I wore Jimbo 2 years.
Yeah. I think most of the songs have some truth to them. Even some of the songs that tell, huge stories, there's a little bit of truth in just about everything that he writes, which has always amazed me, You can pick and choose it. See, I know what's really true in the songs, but you can kind of guess on your own what's true and what's embellished. But,
I try to let them kind of come to me and then get a framework of a song, and it'll usually work with the music that I've got, and if that works, then it'll sit there for a long time, and then I'll have to kind of go and start really refining it and working on it. And when I get to that point, then I'll write maybe 10 verses for a song that's only going to have 3 verses, and go through and pick the best ones, or if one verse is got a killer first line, I'll fuse the verses, if I can, and then think about the whole meaning a little bit, so. Well, one thing about it, we play fast, loud songs, and we play these songs that are meant to entertain people at a live show, so if they're churning and running, we need those types of songs, but we're all fairly adept musicians, and we can do some stuff that's all, we can do just about any style you name with a little bit of wood shedding. And so, I have to think about that a lot, I mean, for one thing, Scott can play a killer funk beat, but we live in a world where every song is a funk beat, and that's one thing that we avoid is there's only about 2 Reverend Horton Heat songs that come close to having a funk beat. You got to work at it, so some songs are fast, some songs take a long time. Wiggle Stick I wrote on the way to get a big gulp.
He'll write a new song, and I'll think I know what he's saying. Then I figure out what the song's about, and I'll sit there, I'll laugh you know, if it's whether it's about something, it's usually got a funny twist in it, you know. And I'll be that's pretty brilliant because I didn't get it the first time. And
Well,
I'll start laughing my ass
these
off.
guys don't really get all the
really
lyrics
funny.
all right away, you know, because they're following of the changes and they hear the melody and they do hear the word the me singing, but not necessarily getting the lyrics. So, like I had this one line about tight bustier. A bustier, and in case you don't know what a bustier is, like, you know, Madonna had one, whatever.
I thought it said,
a tight pussy, eh?
hey, like say you're in Canada,
Hey.
you got a tight pussy, eh? But obviously, I go, say that again.
There
You
goes.
got-
Oh, I thought you were
tight
saying a
pussy,
tight
eh?
pussy, eh? Like in Canada, where everything's a question, eh? Yeah.
No, but it's great because it's always good and it's always got something. It's quality.
There's a bunch of those that you always tell
Yeah.
me that you have to get
Like the
wrong
devil's chasing me. I thought he used to say, "Better roll your window down." No, but it's devil roll your window down.
Devil
That's
roll your
yeah. I've never been good at like figuring out.
things. Yeah,
stuff
but our
like
songs
that.
are so fast and everything. You can't get all those
No, but
lyrics.
it's always a good song. There's always an underlying.
It's like that
meaning
rock
to
and
it.
roll hoochie coo syndrome, where come on a little closer, instead of
Gonna
Come
work.
on, little.
come on little, you know, rock and roll hoochie coo.
Or like Jimi Hendrix, excuse me, while I kiss this
guy.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary. I can't believe it. I mean, I'm flattered. I'm flattered all the time, you know. I feel down and things are, oh, you know, well, Jim, you know, in that market, you're just not doing as well as you used to. And I'm going, oh, boy, okay. Well, when we go there and we play that market, and it's huge, and there's all these fans that are saying nice things to me, it just makes it a lot easier. So God love our fans, you know. That's why we're here, so. Well, Jimbo's the best with our fans.
Well, I know.
Well, you know what? I
Jimbo's
used
the
to,
one. Jimbo's the one.
Before I got
that
married, I
gives them
used
everything
to try to
and-
take one home every, you know, give back.
Yeah,
to
he always
whatever.
would take a fan home
And
every
did you
night.
succeed?
Right. That was so
That's a
big-hearted
long
of
time
you.
ago. I know.
That was so good of you. Oh my God.